What's up, guys? Neil Orfield here to take a look at Stokastic's MLB DFS Lineup Generator. Going to take a look at some of the lineups currently being generated on both DraftKings and FanDuel for tonight's slate. While you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. And of course, if you have not yet signed up for the Lineup Generator, you can still get it for 50% off your first week using the link in my tweet, or if you're on YouTube, the link in the video description. It's going to be just $4.48 for your first week. And then it'll be just $8.95 still after that. So still a fantastic deal after that first week, but you can get it for 50% off the first week if you use the link in the description. Every lineup you're going to get out of the lineup generator is going to be a long-term profitable lineup. These have been run through thousands of simulations. These are the lineups that have been found to be profitable over the long haul. Any lineup that was not profitable over the course of the sims was thrown out. Only the good lineups are here. So let's take a look at what some of those lineups look like. I'm going to start looking on DraftKings. I'm going to do all stack types, all lineup types, not going to lock anybody in. All right, so first lineup we look at, we get Brian Bayo and Pablo Lopez as the pitchers. Pretty stark difference in ownership there. We have Pablo Lopez at 54% projected ownership, Bayo at 2% projected ownership. And then we have a 5-man twin stack, 3-man Guardian secondary stack. So a little bit of added correlation. The Twins bats with Pablo Lopez. If the stack does well, Lopez more likely to get the win. We've got some low-owned pieces of this lineup as well. Joey Gallo at 2% ownership, Ahmad Rosario 3%. Everybody single-digit projected ownership among the bats. So even though Pablo Lopez, very high owned overall, doesn't look like it's crazy high. Yeah, this is on the contrarian end of the spectrum in terms of ownership, still projects quite well. Interesting stack here. Let's take a look in the top pitchers tool to start. So we have Lopez and Bayo as the pitchers. Pablo Lopez, number one in terms of top two pitcher odds, 31% chance of being a top two pitcher on this slate. Coming in at 53% ownership, so a little bit of negative leverage there, but by far the likeliest to be a top two pitcher. So don't mind having Pablo Lopez in an otherwise contrarian lineup. And then Bayo, kind of middle of the pack here against Texas. 9% chance of being a top two pitcher. We do have some positive leverage on Bayo, 2% projected ownership. So he looks good as well. And then as far as the stacks go, the Twins are pretty far down the board, it looks like, in terms of top stack odds. Okay, they are, what is this? 9th overall, if I counted that right. 5% chance of being the top stack at 8% ownership, but an 11% chance of being a top value stack as well. Twins look pretty good today. And then the Guardians, right? Yeah, pretty low down the board, just a 3% chance of being a top stack on the board at 4% ownership, but a 7% chance of being the top value stack on the board. So two kind of value stacks here paired together in the Guardians and the Twins. Still use, 900 under full salary, pretty close to full salary overall. I guess they allow you to pay up for Pablo Lopez, and we do have, the expensive parts of these stacks with Buxton and Jose Ramirez both above 5,000. Jimenez at 4,200. So we have some of the cheap parts, some of the more expensive parts of these stacks as well. Nice correlation. Lopez with the Twins looks like a good lineup overall. We know that. We know every lineup we're going to get here is going to be a profitable long-term lineup. All right, I'm going to save this one. Look at one more here on DraftKings. Second lineup we have here is a 5-man Dodgers stack. No secondary stack here, just 3 one-offs in Starling Marte, David Hamilton, and Mitch Garver. And then we have Pablo Lopez once again and Alex Cobb as the second pitcher here. Cobb at 16% ownership. Where is he he's second overall. So we have the top two pitchers on the slate here in terms of top two pitcher odds. Cobb looking pretty good. 14% chance of being a top two pitcher at just 8,600. Looks really good. So those are our pitcher pairings. And then we had a 5-man Dodgers stack. 4th overall in terms of top stack odds, 7% chance of being the top stack. Clearly expensive at 1% chance of being the top value stack, 5% ownership though. So kind of some positive leverage if you're just looking at top stack odds for the Dodgers. Looks like a good stack there. Overall, a little bit more ownership to this one than the last one, 114% total ownership, 500 less than the full salary, kind of middle of the road in terms of chalkiness. I'm just going to go through and save 20 lineups. See what my exposures look like. 90% Pablo Lopez. That is quite a bit of Pablo Lopez. Good amount of the Guardians as well, but pretty spread out overall with the bats. I mean, 50% kind of a lot for Andres Jimenez, for A slate this size, that is quite a lot going to one player. I might try and cut back on that a little bit. And 90% Pablo Lopez, I don't think I would like that. I'd probably go back, get rid of some of my Pablo Lopez lineups, maybe find some lineups that don't have Pablo Lopez in them. Probably have to go to the contrarian bucket just because he's getting so much ownership. So I'd probably go back and get to some contrarian pitchers just because although he is way ahead of everybody in terms of top two pitcher odds, he's also got pretty massive negative leverage here at 53% ownership. So I would prefer to go back and get closer to the field in my Pablo Lopez exposure, maybe right around 50% Pablo Lopez. If I could, I'd go back, get rid of some of those Pablo Lopez lineups, find some lineups that don't have him. Let's take a look on FanDuel as well. I'm going to do all stack types, all lineup types, not locking anybody. All right, first lineup we see on FanDuel also has Pablo Lopez, also has a full twin stack. So some nice correlation there. Lopez with the Twins. Looks like a 4-2-2 Twins, White Sox, and Braves stack here. Man, yes, Manny Grandal at just 1% ownership. You don't need the catcher on FanDuel, so oftentimes you do get catchers at much lower ownership, but that is fairly low. I guess it's a pretty big slate here. The White Sox in general, I guess Colas also at 3% ownership, offsetting some of that ownership going to Buxton here. Ozzy Albies pretty high ownership as well. So, nicely balanced, 100% total lineup ownership here, using close to the full salary. Projects well. It's on the chalkier end of the spectrum, but not extremely chalky. Let's look on FanDuel. Where is Pablo Lopez? I'm guessing he's the top pitcher on FanDuel as well. Be weird if he wasn't. But just a 10% chance of being the top pitcher. 30% ownership. So still massive negative leverage on Pablo Lopez, but still pretty far above everybody else. Not to the same extent as DraftKings, but 10% to 6% for the second best pitcher here. And then the Twins, top stacks on FanDuel are, let's take a look. Twins are 6th overall in terms of top stack odds, 5% chance of being the top stack at 7% ownership. So looking pretty good as well, going up against Alec Marsh. All right, I'm going to save this lineup. Now, this one on the far contrarian end of the spectrum, still have the high-owned Pablo Lopez, but now we have the White Sox four-man stack, 4-3 White Sox and Giant stack here. A lot of really low-owned bats here, 2% Lamont Wade, 1% Elvis Andrews, 4% Casey Schmidt, just across the board, tons of low-owned. Even Luis Robert is only 3% owned, Tim Anderson 3%. So really nice-looking lineup here, just 68% total ownership on this lineup. And still, you can see you're pretty close to the top end of projection. Every lineup you're going to get is going to project fairly well. But man, this is a very contrarian lineup that still projects well. So I like this lineup quite a bit here with the 4-3 White Sox and Giant stacks. White Sox, kind of middle of the pack, actually a little bit low in terms of top stack odds, going up against Jose Barrios. 4% chance of being the top stack at 3% ownership, but also 6% chance of being the top value stack. They look good, and right above them we have the Giants, 4% chance of being the top stack at 3% ownership, 5% chance of being the top value stack. So pretty contrarian stacks there. Looks like a really nice lineup to me. And then we had the one-off of Fernando Tatis as our one-off. All right, I'm going to save that one. Look at one more lineup here. And we got Pablo Lopez once again. This is a 4-4 Guardians and Blue Jays stack using 85% total ownership here. Again, using pretty close to the full salary. We get the 1-2-3-4 for the Guardians. We get the 3-4-6-9 bats for the Blue Jays. More on the contrarian end of the spectrum once again. Check out the Blue Jays and Guardians in the top stacks tool. Again, kind of middling. Toronto, top half, but not by much. 5% chance of being the top stack at 4% ownership. Guardians, 4% chance of being the top stack at 6% ownership. 8% chance of being the top value stack. So looking good as well. Again, these are all going to be good lineups, nicely balanced for you. I'm going to go through and save 20 of them. See what our exposures look like. And okay, 60% Pablo Lopez. I don't mind that as much as the 90% that we were getting on DraftKings. Of course, there's only one pitcher here as opposed to two on DraftKings. So I'd still probably like to bring that down a little bit, but I'm not completely uncomfortable with that. You still have 8 lineups in here that don't have Pablo Lopez in them. So I would probably lower my exposure a little bit to Pablo Lopez, but probably not a ton. Just get rid of a couple of those maybe and get in some lineups without Pablo Lopez in them. But overall, once again, a ton of the Guardians. I might try to flatten that out a little bit as well. Maybe get down to like 40% of my top owned Guardians, spread out my stack exposures a little bit. But if you're doing it with both, you're probably getting it might be hard to get fine lineups that have neither Pablo Lopez nor the Guardian. So, I'd probably just try and get both, down around 50% for my highest exposed player. It'd probably be my goal if I went back and change my lineups at all. But ultimately, I'd probably be okay with just using these 20 lineups. Once again, you're condensed. It's a little bit more risky when you are this condensed, but certainly they're going to be good lineups. All right, that is going to do it for this video. Please do like the video if you haven't already. Like my tweet if you are on Twitter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and good luck tonight.